Joining me with more is the president of the Washington Strategy Group and former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, Joel Rubin. Joel, it's good to have you back on the broadcast to talk about this. I want to have you listen with me to what Senator Lindsey Graham had to say to the president earlier today. Here it is.
If it becomes a tweet without meaning, then he's hurt himself in North Korea. If he doesn't follow through and live up to that tweet, he's going to look weak in the eyes of Russia and Iran. So this is a defining moment, Mr. President. You need to follow through with that tweet, show a resolve that Obama never did to get this right.
Give me your assessment of this statement. Is the senator correct?
Well, Alex, it's great to be with you. And clearly, President Trump is always looking for an easy way out to complex situations. And this is no different from a variety of situations that we've seen. No, Senator Graham is not correct. This is not one where you just fire off a tweet and then the policy follows through. There actually needs to be real strategic coherence and a real deliberate view of what the administration is planning to do regarding Syria. And there's not. So sending out this tweet and following up, what does that mean? Does that just mean American air raids now ad nauseum without a plan for the day after? We actually need a real policy and real coherence.
You, I'm sure, also saw what the president tweeted about his predecessor, saying that if President Obama had crossed his stated red line in the sand, the Syrian disaster would have ended long ago. Animal al-Assad would have been history. Look, you worked for the Obama State Department. Do you think there's any validity to what President Trump is saying?
You know, I have a unicorn that I would love to hand to you too. I mean, that's fantasy. First of all, we have a real world example of this just a year ago where President Trump launched airstrikes, and we see the results today. Airstrikes in isolation do not work, and we have to remember that back in 2013, there was no political support here in the United States for airstrikes, and we cut a deal with Russia and Syria to pull out chemical weapons that held for a significant amount of time. Clearly, Assad has cheated, and that has been a failure that we have to look at the causes of, and that includes Russia's involvement in intervention. But to say that, wow, if just one initiative had taken place, everything else would have been fine is just really nonsense.
This alleged attack here with chemical weapons, does it increase in any scenario the prospect of a U.S.-Russian conflict on the ground there?
Well, these pictures are devastating, and I received photos of this last night. And to see children with foam from their mouths, it's heart-wrenching beyond description. There need to be consequences, and severe consequences, but they need to be consequences that actually have an end state that will end this and not have a perpetual continuation of these kinds of attacks. That means with Russia, we need to get tough. You know, the president has spent a year and a half allowing Russia to essentially run the playing field in Syria and elsewhere. He's spent that amount of time essentially undermining our strong deterrence against Iran with the nuclear deal. Right now, Iran and Russia control Syria on the ground, much of it. We are there in a small footprint. But imagine if you're an American troop right now and wondering, what is the American policy? What policy am I being asked to die for? Right now, they can't explain it. So there need to be consequences for Russia, but we need to expand this and actually engage Russia, the Europeans, and other regional parties who are involved in this war in an aggressive diplomatic action that currently is not underway.
Okay, so in addition to what you've just said about getting others in the region, those in Europe to get aggressive with their action, are there things that you talked about while you were in the State Department that you think could be employed here to help U.S. policy, to help bring an end to this horrifying situation in Syria that just seems never ending?
Well, certainly at the beginning there, in the front end, with Russia and Iran heavily engaged, we need engaging in a diplomatic activity that brings them to the table and lays out clearly what the end game should be, and we work with them on that. But there are regional partners as well, such as Turkey, with whom we've now had a fissure over Syria that we need to repair relations with as well. But again, this is not going to be an American-only intervention, and that's why America First is a failure as a frame for how to deal with this. This is going to be America engaging and leading, but leading with our partners partners and our allies. And that is what we were working on at the State Department. And that is what Congress has been actively supporting, and more aggressive American measures. But that is right now what this administration has chosen to turn its back on. And the result is, as we see, no real clear policy on how to end the fighting and get American troops out at the same time.
Yeah, or stop the heartbreaking pictures we see all
Exactly.
the time. President of the Washington Strategy Group, Joel Rubin, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining me again.
Thanks, Alex.
Coming up next, the new report.